Okay, welcome to Financial Pulse. It's Andrew here, and I also have Simona. Hi, Simona.
Hi, Andrew.
Hello, hello, and big warm welcome today to Peter Davies from Cape Realty Yallingup. Hello, Pete.
G'day, Andrew and Simona.
How are you
Morning.
going today on this fine Tuesday, mate?
Yeah, it's beautiful. A bit of stormy weather, and we're locked down and enjoying the space.
Semi-isolation.
Yeah.
I see in the background there's a drum kit there. I didn't know you were a drummer, mate.
Yeah, and there's a little piano behind there and a few guitars.
Cool.
There you go. It's always interesting to see into people's living rooms.
Yeah, it's a bit of an eclectic collection. There we go.
Oh, beautiful. Now, Pete, tell me, where did you grow up?
I was born in Broome in February 1951, and I moved to Carnarvon, lived in Perth for a while, and then I moved to Carnarvon when I was 6 years of age, lived there for 8 years. My dad was in charge of the airport there. So I grew up in Carnarvon as a grommet, and then I left to go down to Applecross High School with my parents when I was 14, and spent my teenage years in Perth.
Bit of a change from Carnarvon.
Yeah, Carnarvon was, I spent my time in the ocean. I lived next to Carnarvon Hotel, which was handy.
Awesome.
On the 15th.
And when did you move down to Yallingup?
I spent a lot of time in Yallingup as a surfer in the late 60s. Hung out with Georgie Simpson and did a movie with Ian Cairns, and belonged to a club called Tangaroa Surf Riders. And then in 1981, 82, I came down here with my family, with my wife and Casey. And that's how I began selling real estate.
So you moved down to Yallingup and just straight away started doing the real estate thing?
Yeah, I was a yoga teacher for many years. And I formed the Fremantle School of Yoga in 1976.
Oh,
and so I taught yoga for about 20 years. And then I had a bit of a health problem with my back, and I came down to the southwest and to rehabilitate, and thought I'd start doing something. And real estate seemed to be a pretty good line of work, because I had done selling in insurance when I was younger, and I had learned a lot of good techniques from the company that I worked for. And so I got into real estate, and one of my mates was John Malloy, who used to have Creatures of Leisure.
Mm-hmm.
And John said to me, "Pete, if you're going to get into real estate, you should read this book." It was about a guy who had one street in the USA and he made $1 million. And I was in Yallingup, and I thought, I've got 4 streets. Maybe I'll just work on that. So there's that book that I had with everyone's name and history, which I have kept.
All the Yallingup
and plotted their destination.
Nice.
So what's the name of the book?
Some people just wouldn't sell. See?
We'll take a close up of that later and get all the numbers and emails.
I had 4 streets to work on, and that's how I became, quite successful there. And I even put up a Hollywood sign. Which said "for sale," which you could see from 20 miles out to sea, because I lived in Hollywood for a while. Of course I did.
Of course you did. You're a surfer yoga instructor. Of course you did.
I married an American woman, lady, Kerry, and we had 3 kids. Casey, Jay, and Wyatt and Jay. and they're all pretty well known around town. And yeah, here we go. So the first block I sold at Yallingup was $22,000, which is worth a couple of million now. And the second block property I sold was a house on Wardenup Crescent. And it was, I think it was 120 grand. But part of the deal was a Rolls Royce, which was a premier of Adelaide Rolls Royce, and it was a trade. And we traded that in as a part of the deal. And that was the second house, the first house I sold on Yallingup Hill in 1982.
Unreal. You're probably not aware. My family have had a house down in Gracestown since the early 70s, I guess. And they bought the land there, and it was the block at Gracestown was $500.
Wow.
Yeah, my relationship with Yallingup starts out when I worked in Commonwealth Bank when I left school. And I started surfing, and then one day, it was a long weekend and we'd ventured down south. And I'd never been down south before. It was a major event for me and my neighbour. And when I got to work on the Tuesday, it was a long weekend, one of the guys in the teller said, "What did you do on the weekend?" I said, "I went down to Yallingup." And he said, "Oh, I did." I said, "Yeah, I fell in love with the place." I said, "I want to buy land now." He said, "I've got 2 blocks there. I'll sell you one." I said, "Will you?" He said, "Yeah, $750. So I went home to my mum and dad and said, "Will you go guarantee on a block at Yallingup for $750? And they said, "No way. That place is never going to go anywhere." And so I wasted all my money doing other things. And, eventually I bought a house on the hill at Yallingup for $45,000. And the rest is history.
Yes.
Yeah, my dad was saying, no, Yallingup 750 is too expensive. I can't afford that, so we'll go to Gracetown.
Yeah.
I think he's pretty happy either way.
Yeah, no.
He's done all right.
No, but I absolutely fell in love with Yallingup, and I've never lost that affinity with the place. So
well, as we know, it is the most beautiful and the best place on the planet, Yallingup.
It is.
There's no issues there. We were down when I was a kid, and just every weekend pretty much. It's really is God's country, even if you don't believe in God.
Yeah.
So Pete, did you start Kate Realty Yallingup straight away, or did you work for someone else in real estate?
No, look, it's a bit of a long story because I got this job for a company called Richard Ellis & Co. in Bustleton. And believe it or not, Don Ellis was a pretty cool guy. And he said, "Yeah, I'll give you a job." Anyway, something happened and he said he wouldn't employ me. So I went to another friend in Perth and he said, "Yeah, I'll set you up." So I started working for a guy in Perth. And I used to have a display cabinet at Andy's store, Drew and Andy's place. And that's how I started. And I was a rogue real estate agent. And I used to put my name on my signs. And everyone all the agents used to protest about it. And now they all do it. So there you go. We set a trend.
Oh, wow. Did you put your photo on as well?
No photos. And then eventually I worked for a couple of companies in Dunsborough. And then that little store, which is now the bakery, came up. And I moved in there and spent 15 years there. And the company was called Caves Realty. And there's our logo.
Oh,
Yeah, I remember
wow.
Caves Realty. Yeah.
We were Caves Realty. And then we got tossed out of there when the redevelopment by the new owner, Paul King, was done, and went to Dunsborough for 7 years. And that was really tough. And now we're back.
Pico, weren't you? Where the Pico
We
Pico?
were next to the health food shop. It was a bad location.
Yeah.
And out of sight, out of mind. And then some years back, we moved into our home in House and Rise in Yallingup, and we operate from there.
Nice. Yeah, that I remember the Co's Realty for sure back in the day.
Yeah, that was the best office in Australia, without a doubt. There was the more fun was had there. We used to always take our guests down to K's house for a little shindig, and we had a good team. It was fun. 15 years.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Crystal moved in there for a bit for the surf school, didn't she?
Yeah, after we moved out, we had a few people move in, and that was history again. But we were quite big in the real estate in those days, because we had we were when all the rezoning was done for all the special rural lots, and the strategy plan was made, and we were instrumental in getting a lot of the subdivisions up and running and selling a lot of real estate. And we did quite well. We had a lot of product and no competition, virtually. And that's always a good scene. So,
awesome. So, Pete, tell me, how's real estate business been for your company, Kate Realty in Yallingup?
Well, the last couple of years have been really tough. We've tried to figure out what's going wrong with our business and why we aren't getting the listings that we think we deserve or could handle. So we've done a few things in the last 18 months. We delivered 800 pamphlets to brochures to the residents in the district. And the only way we could do it, because the privacy policy, was to follow the rubbish trucks around. And when they dump the rubbish, we'd put the brochures on the wheelie bins.
Well, you're not allowed.
We were doing bin isolation before it was trendy.
We got to know everyone.
You were dressed up, were you?
Can't stop myself.
It was hilarious. We got to follow the rubbish trucks around for days and weeks. We knew every rubbish bin in town.
What?
And then eventually that came to nothing. And then so about a year ago, we signed a contract with Triple M, and we've been doing an advertising campaign, which cost us over $10,000, and we virtually got nothing from that.
Oh no!
And then we became sponsors for the Dunsborough-Yallingup Chamber of Commerce, and we spent $2,000 there. And then we thought that might help. And then, just by chance, one day, about 2 weeks ago, we went down to call up the Studio Bistro in Yallingup, because they were doing takeaways. And we went down there. I went down there to pick up the food, and I noticed that the place was looking pretty wrecked up. All the leaves from the flame trees, 2 flame trees, was all over the place, and the grass had grown long. So I said to Steve Tippett, the owner, "Steve, if you like, I'll cut your lawn and clean up your place for you for free." And he said, "You sure?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." So I went down there, cut his lawn, cleaned up his place. And he said, so we sat down and had a coffee and a Japanese whiskey, and we had a chat. And he said, "Pete, I've had a look at your website. You know, your website's great, but you're missing one major thing." He said, I had a advertising company, and I can tell you categorically, you're missing out on something very important. So I'm going to share what he said to me, which was very inspiring. He said, "You're not retargeting." And I said, what's retargeting? And he said, it's quite simple. Retargeting is when someone clicks on your website or Facebook page and the business page, they make an impression on your files.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, redirect that traffic back to you, or you can redirect your traffic back to them. That's called retargeting. And that is called Facebook pixels.
That's right, yes.
So no one told me about this. My web man never told me about this. I think most people don't know about it. Facebook pixels.
Pixels, yes.
If you Google that up, it'll change your life.
Now, are you using Google ads or Facebook ads, or what are you actually using to get traffic?
Well, we've been out in the wilderness, probably like quite a lot of other people. I mean, we use Facebook ads, but Steve Tippett said, if you don't use retargeting, it's a waste of time, because everyone that clicks on your website or your Facebook page can be tracked.
They can, yeah.
And you can send them stuff that you want to, and they can see it on their website page, on their Facebook page, and you become familiar with them and you become known to them. And if you're not known to anyone, you're out of the game. Your competition is doing this. We identified with Steve 2 companies that do it in this area. So it doesn't matter what you sell, retarget your
audience.
Your audience, and it's a valuable lesson to me. We'll see how we go. We've only just started looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was definitely worth sharing with you after spending over $12,000, maybe $13,000 or $14,000 in a year.
Yeah, with that much traction.
Business and get nothing. So imagine if you spent that on Facebook,
now,
targeting your audience, because you can go western suburbs and you can collect all the information, demographics you want, you know, age, type of thing. That I'm new at it, but it's very inspiring.
Definitely. But do remember, you do have to pay for that as well. So there needs to be a return on it. But
it's very cheap. You can contact. Sorry,
Simona, what's your experience there?
Well, it just depends, because any marketing campaign you do need to test it, and then A, B, C, D test it and see what elements of the campaign is actually working. So like what Peter said, if you're targeting the western suburbs who are maybe looking for a holiday home, then you'd want to have the right keywords, and you'd want to be looking for the same, well, you want to know what they're looking for or the stuff they're interested in, and you test it out. So you can't just run with one campaign and hope for the best. You've got to keep tweaking it. So it is an ongoing process. But it definitely does work. And obviously the longer you keep the campaigns going, the more money it does cost. But it certainly does help you get more likes and more followers, so that then when you are actually putting anything on your Facebook page, people see it before other things. So it is a very good, useful tool. And that's through the Facebook Business Manager primarily. Yes. So have you had a chance to go through that?
Yes, I've been looking at it, but I'm not that good at that sort of IT stuff, and Joyce is a master of it. So I sent it over to her side of the room or the office. And but to me that was inspiring. I also found out that there's ways to find meta tags that are very useful for product, and I never knew that before. When you click on a site in Google and you scroll down to the bottom, there's all these names at the bottom which give you your meta tags. And I never knew that before either. So these are secrets that people keep and never tell you. So that's what I'm doing. I'm 70 years of age, or nearly 70. I've got lots of stories to tell you about what to do, how to manage properties. And so there's a lot more out there that I can share with you over the years before I move on.
It's interesting.
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Share something with us. Love to hear it.
Well, we some of the things that we do to sell real estate, we always get copied by our competitors. We started doing all the lookout towers for views, and then everyone started doing that scaffolding, putting scaffolding up, because in Yallingup, you had to get up there to the 10-metre level or the 7.5-metre level before you could see anything. So we started erecting scaffolding and hiring scaffolding and doing that, and that helped. And so our competitors did that. There's a lot of things that we've done that you just have to keep inventing the wheel. We always survey a property when we get it, make sure we found the base. Last property we sold, we surveyed the property in engine up and cut all the boundaries in, put string lines up everywhere, did the building envelope. And a neighbour rang up and said, "Mate, you're on my property." And I said, "No, I'm not, mate. I just had it surveyed." And he said, "Boy, I better check that." And he was just about to build.
Ooh.
And he found out that his agent had sold him the wrong block. And he was actually going to build on somebody else's block.
Oh, wow.
So luckily for him, he then moved to the block next door, which was better, the one he'd actually bought, and built his house.
Oh, no, imagine.
So surveying a block and cutting boundaries in is great to sell. And we use, obviously it's being used a lot more these days, you don't need scaffolding, you use drones, right? But we do it at all height levels and mark it at 7.5 or 5.5. So we can tell exactly where the second floor is and what all the views are like. We also started something which we've got nearly banned from realestate.com. We started doing maps and putting demographics of where things were and text. Now everyone does that. We started that. So that's a good tool. When you get a property, you can go to Google Maps, go into Photoshop, put all the demographics on it where certain places are, like the spa, the natural spa at Ingenup, which we found, and the amphitheatre at Ingenup, which we found. And you can locate all the places. Now, lots of people do this now. They follow that. And we don't get banned for it anymore.
Because it's common now. So what's next then, Pete? What's your next new crazy idea that's gonna be a trendsetter?
Well, the last thing we did was we put up permanent home open signs. Instead of having a home open sign on the weekend and putting it on the ground, we put up permanent home open sign which said this property will be open from 10 to 12 or 2 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday, and it's there permanently. Other agents started doing it. So that was a good thing too.
Did the Shire not come along and pick them up?
No, because they were in the ground. They were proper signs with a photo of the house next to the for sale sign. We got a couple of complaints from the locals in Yallingup Beach Estate, but you always get a few complaints from them because there's a description about what's the definition of a conservationist. Someone who just bought a house on Yallingup Hill. Oh, sorry about that. But
100% true.
yeah, no, there's lots of little things. we are very good at preparing properties for sale. We had a big castle out at Merrilinga. We called it Merrilinga. It was next to Cape Lodge. We took 6 months to prepare that property.
Wow.
And it was a challenge. It was a very hard property to sell, and we did sell it. But we had a very willing and able vendor who was prepared to pay the money and do what we wanted to do. It was a 65-acre property or 75-acre property and had a big castle on it. And it was a real challenge, but it was a lot of fun. And it did work.
And how do you go with the more higher end properties? Do you know, because there is only a smaller pool of potential buyers. Do you have a database? Do you get on the phone? And if you know that people have, you know, that sort of budget, so that, you know, you're bypassing, I guess, the general advertising routes, you know, so to make it a bit more exclusive to the seller.
It's so difficult to get listings. It's never been harder. There are so many agents that love Yallingup Hill because it's lucrative. We've offered part of our year campaign with all the things we've done. We've also offered 20% discount on all fees because we just need to get some action.
Get some activity. Yeah.
And I know it's been hard for everyone in business. So finding this tool, this what do you call it?
Retargeting.
Retargeting, I think is really good for me and Joyce, because that's something major that Steve Tibbett from the Studio Bistro, who owned an advertising campaign, says, you're missing out on business.
Yeah.
A lot of business, a lot of follow-up. So do it. And I'm excited about it. We are.
What a great thing that you got the lawnmower out there, Peyton.
Well, you know, it was great, you know, because he gave me something back that I didn't expect.
Right.
And so there you go. There's a lesson for us all.
That's
what goes around
Somebody's
comes around.
lawn, cut the grass. Don't cut their grass, cut their lawn.
Usually you don't want to be cutting your neighbour's lawn, but
Exactly.
that's a good example of
Yeah,
it can work out for you.
I'm not doing everyone's lawn, by the way.
Yeah, is this an advertising
I'll
campaign?
do lawn for people that need it. No problem.
I need some whippersnippering done. I'll give you some Instagram tips.
Cool.
All right, Pete. I know you've got a busy day, as we all do, so we're going to let you go. Just a reminder, we have been having a chat with Peter Davies from Cape Realty in Yallingup. He's, well, we like to call him the mayor of Yallingup. I don't know if he'd agree with that, but
Thanks, guys.
he's certainly been there for a long, long time. He's a pillar of the community, and we all love him. Thanks very much for coming on, Pete, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon when the lockout and the isolation all finishes. Any last comments or questions, Simona?
No, well, thank you for the insight, Pete. I think maybe you're going to have to do some demos once you've got your head around it and you're the local expert. Might be a way you can pivot your business.
Well, any help is welcome over here too, if you seem to know a little bit about it. So come over and have a wine and
oh yeah, we can test it out a bit.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I mean, you know, maybe we could have a lesson online sometime. But I think it's good for everyone, really. So
yeah,
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. We'll speak to you soon. And you've been listening and perhaps watching the Financial Pulse.
All right. Take care, guys. Thanks a lot.